Hello, I am Idra Babalola and I am with Team PillarAI, and we built an automated system that analyzes digital trade regulations across Singapore, Malaysia and Australia. Now all this analysis is done in approximately 3 hours, which is much shorter than what legal researchers spend months and sometimes years on. Now the problem is that the UN ESCAP Hackathon asks what are the digital trade rules in each country, specifically data localization and cross-border data flow rules. Normally, a lawyer spends days reading government websites, finding the actual law text, and scoring it against a rubric. So we've successfully been able to automate this. Now, our pipeline consists of 4 zones. Zone 1, where are we? Okay, Zone 1, which is discovery. We search government website, legal database, even Wikipedia to find relevant laws, and we get a list of candidates documents. And our outputs will be produced in our outputs zone 1 folder. And this is an example output consisting of our seed URL results and Wikipedia results. Wikipedia results can be found here. Yeah, we get a tag of new source type primary. We get status enforced or it's not enforced. Then is it live? Yes, it's very live. Now we get a URL pointing to that exact resource and the indicator accompanying that resource. Now zone 2, which is extraction, we download those documents and pull out the exact clause that matters, like data must stay in a country. Now with the selection references, so in zone 2, we're extracting the data that we got from zone 1.json. For example, this is zone 1 Singapore pillar 6.json, which contains all the data for our pillar 6 for our discovery zone. And in zone 2, what we're doing is that we're iterating through all of these resources and we're extracting our most relevant documents. Now, in order to save time and not loop over hundreds of results that we got from zone 1, we do this thing called embedding, semantic embedding, where we score our URL and our content type to make sure that it matches with expected word patterns that we would want to see in that document. We also do LLM pre-filter, where we send each URL and a snippet of that document to our LLM, and our LLM gives a response whether it's okay, this is a promising resource, or this is not a promising resource, or okay, proceed or needs review. Now, this all happens in zone 2. Now, one more thing in zone 2 is that we can switch LLMs, all right? We have Alibaba Qwen 3.7, which is what we're using right now. We can use Gemini, we can use Olama, and all of this is adjustable in our ENV. So we can set up our ENV, Open Router, Gemini, Olama, and we can add a proxy URL if we want to. Now, to make sure that our entire system is operational, we created a check.env script. So as soon as you've cloned the repository and you've installed everything in our requirements.txt with Python rtx requirements.txt, we created a check env script. Now, the function of check underscore env.py is to validate our environment setup. So immediately it checks if our packages are installed, our API keys are configured correctly, if all our external tools are responding correctly, if there's internet connectivity and validation across all of our endpoints. Now, currently, we have 27 checks passed. These are the most crucial, but for any side quest, for example, our MCP token for loss.sg, all these are skippable, but not necessary, but it can help also. And if you get a response of, okay, everything looks good, you're all set up to use the pipeline, then you can proceed to use the pipeline. If not, then you have to make adjustments in what you just cloned, and so that you rerun the script to make sure everything is good and you can use the pipeline. Now, the next zone, which is zone 3, which is verification. Now, this is the key. We independently refetch each law that we got in zone 2, and very quickly in our zone 2 output looks like this, which is per indicator, we get the documents supporting that indicator. For example, indicator 6.1, Personal Data Protection Act of 2012, indicator 6.2, 6.4, 6.4, and 6.5, which is ignored because we consult external sources. All right. So in zone 3, which is verification, this is the key. We independently refetch each of these documents that we got in zone 2. Okay, so we independently get each of the documents that we got in zone 2, and then we refetch each law and double check that code that we found. Does it actually exist, or was it a hallucination? And if it actually exists, it proceeds to zone 4. If it does not exist, it's flagged for review, and the pipeline continues with zone 4. Now in zone 4, now our output for zone 3, which is Singapore Pillar 6, this is what it looks like. It independently refreshes, gives you a tag of known or unknown. It gives you the verbatim snippet. It gives you the mapping rationale, the impact or comments, the time frame, references, confidence score, verification status, verification with actual text, and then finally verification notes for researchers that want to check each output stage of the pipeline. Then in zone 4, which is scoring, we apply the RDTII rubric with deterministic Python rules like checking each word patterns, phrases that must be implemented, and we're checking each and every one of our outputs that we got in zone 3 verified, and it's checking is the output the same for every input, and then we now use the hackathon, the RDTII rubrics to score and give our own estimated values for each verified output gotten from zone 3. So let me just pre-say this. Okay, so if you want to run the full pipeline for all countries, you use Python run.py, or if you want to use for a particular country, you can use country and then specify the country, whether it's Singapore or AU for Australia or MY for Malaysia. All right. So for example, I want to run the full pipeline for Singapore, and it will run the full pipeline for pillar 6 and 7 for Singapore. I need to go through the entire process of zone 1 discovery, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, and it will run the entire process all the way down to verification, scoring, and extraction. Okay, now what our final output looks like is something like this, and you can get, as soon as all this zone is completed, you can get the final output by running our script python generate hackathon output.py, and you should get an output that resembles exactly this. So we get the country, for example, Singapore indicator 6, pillar 6 indicator 1, pillar 6 indicator 1, indicator 2, indicator 3, 4, 5. Okay, there's no 5. Then get pillar 7. Now all this for Singapore, and we get the law name for PDA section 26, Personal Data Protection Act 2012, etc., etc. It also works for Australia. Now this is for Australia. You get Privacy Act of 1988 all the way down to pillar 7. You also get for Malaysia. For example, Personal Data Protection of 2010, indicator 5, and indicator 3. So this is PillarAI, and thank you. More information can be gotten from our README, which has a proper setup script and everything needed to understand properly the pipeline. So this is an example of a full run for all 3 countries, Singapore, Malaysia, and Australia, across pillar 6 and 7. And we can see the entire process from zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, all the way to zone 4. Now all this is done in 3 hours, but this is a sped up version of the outputs and expected outcomes. We can see crawl for AI, scraping information. We can see our extraction, our verification, and our scoring. And we can also run the hackathon output script so that we can get our final.xls output. Thank you.